This is a book of first chapters. If on a Winter's Night a Traveler by Italo Calvino is a story about stories. In the first few pages, you find out a character named You the Reader is buying a book named If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. So just from that, you already have an idea of what kind of story this is. Spoiling as little as possible, the general idea is that the protagonist buys a book, reads the first chapter, and then realizes the whole thing is misprinted. So he goes back to the bookstore and he meets a girl who has the same issue. The bookstore owner hands him a new copy, the real If on a Winter's Night, and obviously it wouldn't be that easy, so clearly it's not the real book. The rest of the story takes a winding path from that point where the two of them are in a chase to find the real book, but keep coming across these incomplete story fragments that they've never heard of before. I won't say much more besides that it gets insanely convoluted from this point. Things like kidnapping, conspiracies, plane-hijacking, imposters, plagiarism should be enough to sell it. I don't need to say much more about the writing because what makes it so special to me is the structure, really. I mentioned that our two characters encounter the story fragments. As it progresses and they interrogate these new chapters, Calvino takes these exact fragments and enlaces them into the story itself, alternating them with the quote-unquote real story so that you, the reader, are literally reading alongside you, the reader. The entire time, this concept of interrupted endings reminded me of the story of Scheherazade from 1001 Nights. In that story, there's a Persian king that finds out that his wife is unfaithful, and out of rage he kills her and orders his minister to find him a virgin to marry, and then execute within the span of a day, over and over again. Scheherazade volunteers to marry him and at night tells him a story that he becomes so enamored with that he lets her live to the next day so that she can tell the ending. And I think you can see the connection I'm trying to make here. Anyways, she ends the story and begins another one, and in this way, Scheherazade, the storyteller, extends her life for another 1,000 nights, hence the name. Okay, so why does any of this matter? Well, my feeling is that, and this is a pretty unsubtle discovery, trust me, if you read the ending, you'll know why I say that, but it feels to me that Calvino has written a modern reenactment of 1001 Nights, where it's a reader-king hybrid being dragged along by a universe Scheherazade hybrid. This theme of interrupted endings builds itself into the structure of the story, and then the structure of the story becomes a theme in itself, which I think is a whole handshake between structuralism and post-structuralism, but I think if I get into that, it's going to go for another hour or so. Like I said, if you get to the ending, all this becomes way more viable and sensible, so hopefully that's temptation enough. Hope you read it.